Okay, I do believe we are in fact live now.
Okay.
Woo!
I'm trying to line up my device here to pick it up because I'm on my phone and my iPad's in use here. So trying to bring up your
Okay.
Periscope on my third device.
Is it working?
Not quite yet. Um, Once people start sharing it, this is under my other account that was set up, so people
Okay,
have to start sharing.
I will share right now. Everyone, remember, sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. And this is under your Keka. Let's
Kekobi
see,
Vision, yeah.
Keka.
Yeah, I just shared it, so maybe you'll get it now.
You got it. There we are, looking daringly sexy tonight. I think
Yeah.
we are.
Could be worse.
Could we have pushed the envelope on the sexy here? We might have.
Oh my goodness.
Ernie, that's what she said. Let's keep it clean here.
Good Lord. This isn't my first favorite hat, but it's the one that works best with the green screen. So what are you gonna do?
No, I think we're appropriate sizes there.
Debbie Lesko's already got called.
Yeah, there are. It's just to explain to everybody what's going on. They're all going into their respective websites, and they're seeing that the votes just dumped at 11. The early vote totals are embargoed from the polls closing, which is 10 p.m. Eastern our time, Obi, until 11 automatically. So nobody knows anything until 11, and then it dumps all at once. So what you saw here is the dump of the early vote, and that early vote total is roughly like 55% probably of the total vote that came out altogether, which I think is between 180 and 190,000 expectation. So what you see there is Debbie Lesko declared winner at a 53 to 47, and some people might say, "Wait a minute, that's pretty close, Adam. You said it was going to be 6 points, but we don't trust you that much. How do we know it's going to be actually 6 points? It's not enough, right? Well, it's because they're projecting out the precinct turnouts where people did show up and where they didn't. And the Democrat strongholds are very few and far in between. Roughly 22% of the 8th district is a Democrat registration, and then you have a higher amount, closer to 30% independent, and they're the ones that are really hard to poll. So that's why you have people that were just generally not overly concerned about winning this race.
Hmm.
The national pundits, kind of, even myself included, wanted to see the margin. We're not here to figure out whether or not
Yeah.
Debbie Lesko was going to win or not. I could have declared her victory a month ago. As a matter of fact, I did. But I said it was going to be a matter of whether it was going to be 12 points or 6 points.
Hmm.
And I still didn't rule out a 10-point win today, but my early guesstimates were based on the early voting. It was impossible for her to come in underneath 5 or 6 points, simply by virtue of most people mail their ballots in that district, particularly the voters that always show up or always vote. You're much less likely to see a big drive up and turnout for a special election. I think it was like 97, 98 degrees out there today.
Yeah,
So by afternoon,
97, yeah.
yeah. So by afternoon, we kind of knew that the people that had an excuse, any excuse they were looking for not to go out and vote, were not going to vote today. This candidate, Dr. Hero, uh, you know what? I'm just going to say she probably appealed to a large swath of the community that is Latino or those who are seeking to shore up Obamacare. And that coalition is probably about half, a little more than half of the independents and pretty much all of the Democrats. That still doesn't, it's not going to get you home in the 8th district if you're a Democrat. I'm sorry, it's just not going to do that. And I think you noticed that the Democrats this time around, Obi, they were not really smelling blood in the water, as they did perhaps in Georgia 6. And then, of course, in the PA 18th, there was much less fanfare around this one. And then they talked about how the Republicans were concerned. But in reality, I think we put in about $1 million on top of what Debbie Lesko was doing herself, which was an effective campaign that she ran. So, I think it was a lot of fanning the flames, which turned out to be the wick of a candle. That's about it. and they were being fanned by the Rachel Maddow's and of the world, and the Joy
Yeah.
Reids, and those on CNN
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
interesting. I was listening to Laura Ingraham this morning, and she had
Mm,
Debbie Lesko on as a guest in the last like 5 minutes of the show, and she said that that if the Democrats' argument was if they got anything better than 15-point loss,
mhm.
that it was proof that there was going to be a blue wave.
Well, that's really stretching the Play-Doh out as far as you can before it snaps in the middle. I do think that they have a short track record here, and it's a mix of bad candidates and interesting dynamics and geography and the special elections as they were. But I don't think that it's something that a 15-point loss is anything to point as a moral victory. I think at this point, if it's not 10-point or 9 or 10-point victory for Lesko, I don't think it's a blue surge, or as I was joking with Richard Barris earlier, I said it's not. Never mind a blue wave. I mean, we're looking for like a little surge here to make this thing close out of them, and I don't really think they're even going to get that. So, I mean, this could be a blue puddle, if you will. If they get under double digits here, then it certainly can be construed that it's a weakness, because I think the Cook PVI on this one is way out of the ballpark. And of course, you marry that metric to
Yeah.
the overall
Yeah,
Trump victory,
but
and
but
you're looking for higher than
but
that.
all it is just a a headline.
Yeah, it's a brief snapshot in time. That's what these special elections are. They may, reach a boiling point, and I think in this district it reached its boiling point in the primary runoff. And I think there's been a real exhaustion felt by the voters from the proximity being too close from the special runoff to now. And I don't think Lesko ever recovered the amount of energy that she normally would have had she not had that type of rough and tumble primary runoff situation. This is very similar to what we had in Alabama, where Roy Moore just could not regain that energy that he got after his initial 9-point win in the runoff. So it wasn't just solely that Roy Moore ran headlong into every freaking thing you could throw at him, including pedophilia. It was more than that. I mean, I think it was just that you have these sometimes 6 weeks or less election cycles, and you
Hmm.
reach an exhaustion point with your own base of support, and I think that's what happened. And the PA 18th was a very unique thing that only I would be able to explain to someone else who is from there or has campaigned excessively there over the years that I've done myself. So that's a very difficult race, and plus, then you have to know Rick Saccone as well, and you have to know how Rick Saccone, who lost that race to Connor Lamb, how he voted as a state legislator for those 8 years preceding that race to understand why we did not eke that one out by a couple hundred votes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so different for me, kind of jumping into politics, and then compared to someone like you who's been canvassing the same area for 30 years, and
Hey,
and who
20,
knows
20, 20,
20
20. I wasn't doing too much when I was 10 years old. Don't make me any
20,
older than I do.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
For the I mean, you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
I mean, it's a completely different animal, and I mean, I look at it completely differently than you do, and I'm sure you have
Mhm.
a better grasp on reality. So, I mean, it's good to
Well, I
have
would,
your.
yeah, not reality, but a word that I always use. Obi, you've heard this. You've been following me a long time. A word I use is perspective, and perspective, when lost, pretty much knocks everything out. You're just totally askew when you're trying to realize a goal or an achievement, whether it's a campaign or a won or lost race or a policy that didn't get passed into law or whatever you want to call it. You have to have perspective, and you have to understand if something did fail, like we failed in Alabama and we failed in the PA 18th. It's more important to learn from those failures than it is to learn in the margin of victory here
Mhm.
out in the Arizona 8th. So while I think a lot of our base tends to take the victory, spike the football, and move on, and they do have that positive energy. They want to keep this thing going. They don't
Mhm.
want to slow the train down. But if you don't slow the train down and look at what is dead on the tracks, like the PA 18th and the district that we never should have had to spend any money on in Georgia 6, you got to look at that. Even though we won that, it's just as important to look at 18, where we lost, as to why it was so close in the Georgia 6 with a terrible carpet bagging pencil neck candidate in Ossoff. I know we had a milquetoast candidate ourselves with what I can't remember. Yeah, Handel, Karen Handel. So, but it's important to me that I keep perspective and it's snapshot in time right now. And I think that this margin of victory is yet to be understood or realized, because we have, in my case here, we're reporting almost no precincts at this point, right? Because you're only going to start to get smaller ones in.
Less than 1%.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you
wait, it's 0 of 143. 143.
They're just now going to start putting out the results that were coming in from 10 to 11 p.m. our time. Again, for everybody coming in late, why is the race declared already? It is not due to election day voting. This is the early vote that came in. They do mail ballots out there that are very popular. I disagree with them. I don't trust them nor like them when it comes to mail-in.
And why is
balloting. Because there's not a degree of efficacy that you would have with election day voting. There's not the degree of oversight. It's just I just think it is more
because they can just write them in for people that are dead and whatever, or
well, you have to keep an eye on who's getting their ballot, who's returning that ballot. Is it that person, or is it someone in the household voting on their behalf? There are built-in insurance policies with mail-in voting, but I would like to get away from this trend that the League of Women Voters and others are pushing for, like online voting. It's just
sounds like a disaster.
It sounds like a disaster because I know and I've worked with Department of States, my own and others, and I see that they are generally understaffed departments.
You just look at it as a corollary example, if that's the right word. I mean, all these hacks that have happened to Target and to all these other companies where they go in and hack your the Office of Personal Management, where they go in and hack all your information. If everything's online, then everything's hackable, and then your vote's hackable, and then you're screwed.
Yeah, I found that to be really ironic. You hit upon a point there that I want to expound upon a little bit. We had our Voter Integrity Commission, correct, where we wanted to protect everybody's one man. Yeah, exactly. It's now defunct because of governors that were not cooperating.
Yeah, because half the whatever. What is it?
24. Yeah, there were about 22, 24 Department of States, including a couple of Republican states, that didn't want this information to be available in one space, which I thought to be ironic, right? Because now they want to do online voting,
right?
But they don't want the federal government to have a database of registered voters, which can be ascertained by you or me or anyone else who wishes to purchase that from the state. So it's a really shitty argument, and it was just a PR stunt on their behalf. And Trump, I liken it to the way Trump responded to the Ronnie Jackson stuff with the VA nomination, where he just basically said, listen, if I were him, I'd just walk away. I'm still behind him 100%. He's a great guy. He deserves this.
Why would you even bother?
Why bother with this? That is the exact same attitude Trump had with the Voter Integrity Commission. He's basically said, listen, this is just more headache than it's worth. We get what we need out of the DHS anyway.
Yeah.
Let's just not pursue this in the public hemisphere anymore. And he was absolutely right to do it, because it just would have been one fight after another. And Trump, as you saw today, with another judge in Washington, ruling that this travel ban not only can't be enforced, but he's actually giving the government 90 days, I believe, to explain why they ended the DACA program. That's the DACA program, not the travel ban. Excuse me. They want substance behind the president's decision to execute his powers under Article 2 of the Constitution to end that, which was not a law. It was the quote unquote law of the land by virtue of Obama issuing an executive order.
Wait, so that happened today?
That happened today. and
I
it
missed
is an
that.
affront. It's an affront to the justice system overall that this judge decided to do that. I would be horrified if I were Donald Trump. I would just not want to try to have common sense Article 2 issues continually adjudicated in a corrupt, manipulated, partisan appeals court system. And so that's why he gives up sometimes on fights like the Voter Integrity Commission and things like that. And I know that he didn't give up the mission of ensuring one man, one vote, but I know that another department had to pick that up under the guise of different appropriation lines because the Democrats just kept making political hay out of
I want to kill them.
it. Metaphorically, of course.
Of course. Yeah, politically. I
Well,
want to destroy them politically. How about that?
I will say that if that is your mission, then Debbie Lesko, by proxy, has probably done a pretty good job on your behalf tonight. Nothing I see from the early votes versus what we expect to be the total vote on election day turnout. Nothing gives me any indication that this margin would actually slip.
Right.
It's possible, but I don't think so.
The last two special elections that slipped, that went the other way, the Roy Moore and the that other one,
Connor Lamb and Saccone and PA 18th.
Saccone, yeah. Both of those, you were not hesitant to tell us right away that it doesn't look good. It's not like you were trying to.
Well, no, I mean,
blow smoke up our ass, you know.
Let me qualify both those races. In both those instances, I had access to a lot more information than I will on this one. It's not going to get the same precinct by precinct attention. For instance, like the New York Times is not running their election tracker for this election. There's just it's a different feel when you have a race that's close. You have to analyze it from literally at the precinct level. Where at this point, we can already ascertain by we, not just me, like anyone in the punditry circle, before this was even declared, you look at this 6-point margin and you know that there's a early vote deficit that we normally face when we're up against a well-constructed Democrat campaign that has a lot of independent access or independent voter access. So the fact that they were actually, we can tell by virtue of who's sending those ballots back what the margin was going to be on some of the early voting, and we knew that was looking good. So it doesn't take a genius now to tell you she's going to win potentially double digit, depending on how she performed in some of the areas where we normally have a higher turnout. And it's like I said, though, there's a little bit of exhaustion built into this, a little bit of fatigue. Because we're that close to the runoff, which kind of sucked up a lot of energy with the top 3 candidates in that race. And there's some bad blood, you know, because everybody has their person, their guy or their gal. And a lot of times it just leaves a lot of people home. And when I say a lot, I mean 2-3% of the total vote, because that is all it took, less than that, in both the Alabama Senate statewide. And of course, in the 18th in PA, that's all it took, Obi, was, you know, for a couple of pissed off or disaffected voters that are Republican to stay home. So it's nice to know that we had a very enthusiastic effort undertaken in the early voting. That's a credit. That's a credit to Debbie Lesko. I mean, let me be emphatically clear about this. She ran a solid, very efficient, not numbers like to the point where she looked like a robotic algorithm candidate, but she did the job.
It's a credit to having enough charisma to get it done, you know. And unfortunately, Roy Moore and Saccone were not ideal candidates.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with them. I think they would have voted correctly, and I would have voted for them had I lived in their district or their state. But, I mean, they were not the most charismatic candidates.
No, yeah. I mean, but there was no excuse for losing
No
either one of them.
excuse. No
Yeah, I
excuse.
mean, we should have been
I'm,
able.
I'm not trying to give an excuse. No.
We should have been able to get Rocco, the Avatar, elected in either one of those races, and we didn't. And that's a failure. Like I said, that's all about perspective at this point. Like you have to have a clear head, clear set of eyes, and take away a mission objective from a loss or a win. And of course, in this case, I don't think we exhale whether the margin is 8 or 12, which it could be anywhere in between there, to be honest with you, depending on what happened on election day. I imagine it'll be somewhere around 8 to 10, probably 10. It doesn't matter. I'm just guessing at this point because I don't know where those votes came in. So I don't have any geographic information proximal to what you typically get at the precinct level reporting. I don't have it, so I'm just kind of shooting lightning bolts out of my ass here. But the important thing for people to take away from this is I don't think we'll be spiking the football on this one. And why do people get on with those talking points that you were referencing? Why do they get on and say if this is anything less than 20 points, it's a moral victory or an indicator of a blue wave? They do that to guard against disappointment in the ranks of their own party. That if this is a 12-point victory for Lesko, then they start doubting whether or not there's even going to be a blue surge, never mind a blue wave.
Yeah. They're definitely, playing the persuasion game for sure.
Yes, yeah, and I'm kind of disappointed in the, let's just say, the lack of alacrity from the voting totals reported from the primary runoff. So I am not altogether surprised that even the small precincts, even after a 30-minute embargo period for the 60-minute prior, so we've got a 90-minute period here where we should have some precinct data already piled up. I'm kind of disappointed that, again, Arizona, at least in Maricopa County, I know it's a very senior citizen saturated area, but is every judge of election 95 years old? Are you using donkeys to run your numbers down to the courthouse? I mean, I would just imagine that people would like to see a couple of precincts reporting by 11:30 Eastern.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, what time is it? It's 11:31. There should be more than 0 out of 143 precincts, you would think.
But for them, it's essentially 90 minutes, so that's not a long time. But typically here in PA, we start getting real quick counts in. They try to get them in as quickly as possible in the smaller precincts. So, and I know that this is kind of a different area. The population is versus the square mileage of this district is set up in a totally different way than it is in most states. So I'm a little bit forgiving, but certainly within the next 10 minutes or so, I expect to see the first smaller precinct report in.
I hope so. I mean, it seems like it's already been called. I mean, part of me is like, does it even matter? And the other part of it is like, do we spike the football and crush them by 20? Or, I mean, what?
Yeah.
What is it even?
Yeah. I think I speak for a lot of people when this thing was just a marker, a mile marker on the road on our way to more important races, which include some primaries that we want to see the results from in the spring and May, the first set of primaries. So this was kind of a, what do you call it? Like it was just a destination point that wasn't, an unknown. We expected victory. We did not ever declare a full flag, red flag, get everybody out here, their resources, even though Emerson putting out a poll a couple of weeks ago saying we're statistically in a dead heat.
Really? Someone said that?
Yeah, we had two polls, one democratically based, another one out of Emerson, and Emerson was using a very heavy D weight.
Imagine my shock.
Yeah, exactly. So, you talk to some pollsters and they're just, they kind of shrug it off and giggle about it because it's just not real. And so we knew that this was somewhere in the 6 to 10 vicinity. We just didn't know until we saw the total turnouts. And I know there are a lot of Republicans out I heard from in Arizona today that were disappointed with the turnout, prior to the dinner rush, because I know that they wanted to guard against that. They wanted to spike the football. They wanted to show the country, hey, we are really Trump country, and there was nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
And they were kind of worried that, but the people that are watching this for a living would have dubiously looked upon a spike in numbers on election day as something that is harder to predict. So by virtue of them only cracking the nut of about 180,000 total votes, I mean, we can kind of guess that there wasn't the necessary energy on the Democrat side to get her close to Lesko.
So at least she's going to win by more than 734 votes, right?
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
It doesn't matter. It's just an inside joke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we've beaten that to a pulp.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at again, 150. I mean, you're looking at maybe 30,000 outstanding votes. So I don't have a calculator in front of me, so I'm not. If the margin holds up across the board, it's not going to fly up that much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could have been anywhere between 6 and 10, and how much is it going to really switch up here with another 30,000? I mean, you can get a calculator out and do it yourself at home.
The race was already called a half hour ago.
Well, certainly, because there's just not enough. She's down roughly 9,000 votes, correct? I mean, it's just not statistically feasible for her to overcome that margin with maybe 30,000 votes outstanding, all told. So, again, it's more of a learning moment, a teaching moment, I think, for how different these states are and how different vote tabulations occur.
So like, what is that? 80% of the votes were pre votes. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, roughly 7. I think it'll be about the same percentage that we had for the primary runoff. I mean, you're looking at you're looking at about 75 to 80%. I'll have to go over.
I mean, it's just a random number, but it's somewhere around there.
Yeah, I haven't been back on Twitter yet, but I'm sure I already have a couple of people already giving me all these facts and figures. I should probably jump over there and look and stop staring at it, the last 30,000. But I'm such a geek that I just want to see the precinct numbers. Because a lot of people are voting early, you don't get a real snapshot on this day in history. You know what I mean? This time versus what you do to the lead up. So I'm kind of curious.
Right.
There's more
even in my opinion, Trump is better off now than he was 2 weeks ago. If you were to take a snapshot today versus 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
But a lot of the votes were 2 weeks ago or even a month ago.
I think less than a month, but I'm not sure what the first date they could mail in. But yeah, I think your point is dead on. That's my intellectual curiosity. I think that's what other guys are looking at. Some of the guys I talked to today was just, this is all about, the MOV, which is, the margin of victory. So we're kind of looking for trends all the time. We're just looking for trends all the time in any district that we possibly can get a snapshot in, even if it's a plus 40 district and we end up with a plus 32 or plus 42. We want to know where the strength is, and we want to know what the pressing issues are politically germane at that level to, whether it's a district or a state Senate seat or anything like that. We can extract information from everything that we're seeing. It's kind of like analytics in baseball. It's the difference is it changes all the time. It's just like baseball. There are rules to the game, and players have tendencies, and that's gonna show itself over the bulk of data accumulation in politics.
Unless you're in the 90s and they're all juicing up or something.
Well, exactly. Some little things like that sometimes they change. How they want to hit the ball, get more top spin, and a lot of guys change their career on that stuff. But mostly the metrics are pertaining to the rules of the game, and in politics, the rules of the game are never static, so they're always changing because the players are always changing. So you can't look at just raw data and predict exactly what's going to happen. I think that's where people are getting reminded right now. I mean, they're looking at.
I mean, talk about the most craziest, most fluid, changeable time in history right now.
Absolutely. And you're seeing it. It's being borne out in the political process, and it'll be borne out in this primary process, and it'll be borne out particularly in the general. I'm sorry. It's just very, very hard to predict based upon a national model of, let's just say, the daily tracking poll by Rasmussen. I mean, we can't really walk away, even if it spiked all the way to 60% approval rate for Trump. You certainly would say, my gosh, there are a lot of people feeling good about the way Donald Trump is performing, and I don't see that number occurring. But say he were to get to maybe 55, it doesn't mean that we have any real statistical better chance at some of these districts where we're struggling to retain the House. So it all comes down to local politics. I mean, it's all politics is local, but that's what's going to be the trend in the suburbs of Houston are not going to be the trends in the suburbs of Detroit and suburbs of Philadelphia and the suburbs of Miami. All right. So these seats that we need to retain in San Diego and other places in California where they're strongly challenging some of our Republican seats, and vice versa, where we're challenging theirs. Those will not be determined by a national sentiment. Hey, the Dow's at 28 in November, or Trump declares peace on earth, which at this point wouldn't surprise me. But
yeah, they'd still want to impeach him.
It depends on those specific districts. And we have a nice majority, but not the majority where I can turn around and tell you that I'm feeling great about it at any given day. It's nice to know that even though she has to run again in a couple months, I don't think she'll be challenged, Debbie Lesko, in the primary in a few months at the end of the summer. I think she will win handily again for a full 2-year term. So it's nice to know we don't have to worry about District 8.
Yeah, that's one less thing
concern
to worry about. Yeah.
So
I mean, especially considering that whole debacle in the Pennsylvania, redistricting crap that went down.
Well, yeah, you can just take the 18th and throw it out. I mean, essentially, that's what our Supreme Court did anyway. So there really is no 18th as it was before. There's, Saccone is now running in an entirely different district as a different candidate trying to knock out an incumbent Democrat. And now you have which different district? It's possible now. And then we have, Connor Lamb, he'll be an incumbent. Yeah, not for long, because now he's going to have to run against Keith Rothfuss, Congressman Rothfuss. And Rothfuss, though, picked up some Allegheny County in the city. So his seat's not as strong anymore. And if I start talking about PA, it's going to be 3 o'clock in the morning and people are going to be screaming. And, it's not a normal or logical situation in Pennsylvania. So when I start to elaborate on it, it just turns into a bitch fest.
Do you have any? Do you want to amend or change? I mean, what do you think about our chances for keeping the House in the 2018 election?
Oh, am I amending off my 33.3?
No, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I'm not amending. I'm not amending my 33.3 at this point.
You're still right there, huh?
I'm still right there. I just don't. I think we have to defend so many seats that it's going to be hard to be as aggressive in seats that we don't currently have or Democrats are vacating and we have a shot. I don't know that we have the resources to go after them in a way that's going to balance the scales out. So I certainly think that this thing is a close majority one way or another. I don't think the major pollsters out there would disagree that, we would have to have a net loss of a pretty serious, like 24 seats. I mean, that's a pretty damaging blue wave, if you will. But even if it should come up, it would still, I expect it to be one way or another. If we retain majority, it would be about a 10 to 12 seat retention. And if we lost it, I think it would stay within that same worst case scenario. So that's really hard to govern with, particularly if you want to keep a Nancy Pelosi as your leader of your party and a speaker. I think that'll be a real dogfight to retain any semblance of control in the Democrat Party. It's just people are going to look at me and they're going to say, well, Adam, the Democrats don't have anything to run on. What's their policy issue? What's their narrative? How do they win? Well, it doesn't matter because you're confusing the national issues of the day and the national narratives with what works in your congressional district. Everything Trump's doing with trade, everything Trump is doing with, renegotiating existing trade deals, everything he's doing has an impact. Tariffs have an impact in districts that is going to challenge one and benefit another. So, I mean, you have to get it down to, like I said before, you want to look at the congressional district like a clock. It goes in quarters, and there's 15 seats that are really that we need to protect the most, that they want the most. Then there's another 15 that are in the second tier. It's almost like doing an NFL draft. I mean, you have to decide where you're going to put your resources. And it generally works out that you line up your resources in a way that very strategic. So it's, if the chessboard doesn't shift out of whack, it's not like somebody's going to have a completely different offensive scenario and leave their defensive flank open. So it's most likely we do lock down 90% of the time in the same districts, putting all of our money and all of our resources. But that changes on who your candidate that comes out of a primary is. Because sometimes you don't get the candidate you want or that Washington wants, and they won't fund them. And then they go to another district and they give up that seat because they don't like the Republican who's running, and they'll go to another seat next on the list and put all their resources there. And I think that's where people get frustrated because they think that we should, the NRCC should be behind all Republicans.
So a MAGA candidate wins the primary and then they abandon him.
Yeah, it could be MAGA, or he could be just batshit crazy. It happens, man. It really does. It happens. Less frequently, obviously, at the Senate level, but it has happened, and McConnell won't shut up about it. Like what happened in 2010. He keeps going back and back and back over this stuff, and it starts to get aggravating because he talks about the same candidate.
I'm sorry, 2010. Refresh my memory.
We had two candidates that ended up getting beat. Three candidates, I think, if you count the one in 2000. Yeah, it was all 2010. We had the issue with the guy down in Missouri, Aiken.
Okay.
No, that was 2012. Yeah, 2012. I'm sorry. Remember the guy that's the one that the current senator in Missouri, who we'd like to get out of there, beat because he was he wasn't the preferred pick of the GOP, but he got through the primary, and then before the general happened, he started talking about really outlandish ideas about abortion or rape. I think he even it was something about. Remember that? I think his name was Todd
something
Aiken.
about that.
Yeah, basically saying you shouldn't have an abortion if you get raped because So it was just awful. I can't even explain. It was so bad. I blocked it out. And then I forget the woman's name that we had, I think, in Delaware. The one who had some pretty wild, outlandish ideas herself. And she was in a good position to pick up an unlikely seat. And then I think we had a chance to beat Harry Reid. and that went down with the wrong candidate too.
Oh,
So
that would have
McConnell,
been so good to beat Harry Reid.
yeah, because remember, yeah, I'm not a witch. That's exactly what Christine O'Donnell. I don't want to get the last name wrong. I think it was Christine
I'm not
O'Donnell.
a witch.
But like Ernie's right, it was something really weird, like and some weird beliefs and sexuality and all kinds of weird stuff like that. So I don't want to belabor the stories to make McConnell look like a more authoritative figure on
Yeah.
this, so I won't.
Yeah, let's not give him any more credit than he doesn't deserve.
No, I will. I give him a tiny little bit of credit for calling the cloture vote for Pompeo and getting Rich Grinnell on there for the vote. I think we need to do this more. I mean, you're basically forcing the Dems into a.
I give him credit for that and for the Gorsuch. That's about it.
Well, let's hold the jury up on that one a little while. I want to see another couple Gorsuch decisions. I won't lie. My asshole's still puckered from the last decision.
It doesn't matter how he voted. He's better than Merrick Garland would have been.
Right? Yeah, in the last case, they would have voted the same, and I'm kind of hoping that doesn't happen again. We have the travel ban issue coming up at the SCOTUS level. So me, I'm just turning into a bitter, cynical guy as I get older, Obi. So I trust no one.
I'm more conspiratorial and bitter than you are, so don't worry.
Yeah, I've been hanging around with Glenn too much, so
I'm farther than Glenn on the conspiratorial side, probably.
Yeah, I was pretty genuinely amused by Glenn's attitude toward today. He completely just doesn't care or ever worried about Arizona 8. And that storyline is just so. I mean, I talked about the fatigue for the voters in Arizona 8. That goes tenfold for Glenn. Just this is not. I mean, he's not a number crunchers on the side of giving his guess here or there on election per se, but he does have a general feel for when the shark has been jumped, and that was this race to him, and he just wasn't going to get involved with it.
Yeah,
and I understand that
it doesn't matter, and I mean, basically, it's already won. It doesn't matter, and no matter what, in the midterm, more voters would come out, and it would go back the way it's supposed to go anyway. If by some crazy chance Lesko had lost,
which would work against every common denominator for a special election, which Democrats traditionally hate because they don't succeed or do well in them. Republicans do better at them because we traditionally have a better Go TV system. Now, I don't trust anybody. I don't trust the NRCC. I don't trust the RNC. So, I mean, now it's like we all sit around and wonder, what the hell the final result's going to be, especially when we're this far away. From Arizona, it's a guessing game. So I don't know if it's just me, if I am not picking up any live results, but I'm curious to see if this thing will jump. It could easily, with 30,000 plus, maybe 30,000, maybe 25,000 existing votes, this thing could easily change by a couple percentage points. I don't know about people watching, but I've got I've got a deep intellectual curiosity on that. So I'm kind of frustrated that here it is, almost midnight, and the polls have been closed for 2 hours, and I'm not really seeing anything.
No, it hasn't changed at all. It's just been stuck. And
unless I'm wrong,
someone said right at 10 o'clock their time, that it's gonna just blam. I'll go.
Well, that's I mean, that's the early voting. That's everything that they've tabulated thus far. I knew that was going to happen. Everybody does. It's an embargo. What they do is it's like in Europe, where they have an embargo over not just the vote totals, they have it over social media and everything.
Yeah. Over news coverage and everything.
Yeah. So this embargo is just hold the early votes until 11. and then we know what the trend is going to be pretty. I don't know how many election day votes are buried in here. I don't have any way of getting any precinct by precinct information. There's a reason why the New York Times is not doing their trackers, because they were anticipating that as well. So it's likely that I'm missing something. However, I know that more than 155,000 people voted today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I know there are outstanding votes. So that's why I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs and looking. So let me go over and see if someone has given me a.
Yeah, maybe the PPD has gotten you a tweet or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I'm checking. Richard is.
I just gave it a reload, even though it shouldn't change anything. Still the same thing. I mean, it's supposed to reload itself. So I just thought I would reload the website just to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least it's
Yeah,
pretty much.
Richard's getting something. Richard Barris is getting some access to some info that I do not have. So I will keep my eye on that. I encourage everybody to do that as well. Let's see here.
So Maddie Adams says not updated till 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time,
Yeah, that's stupid.
which
That's
is
dumb.
midnight.
Yeah, which we're 5 minutes away from. So
Is that it? Okay.
yeah.
6 more
Let's
minutes.
see.
So I think we can.
I think we can kill some dead
We
air
can kill some
for
dead air for
6
six
minutes. So we can
minutes.
certainly do that. Let me switch up my mic here. I was wondering why my ear was starting to hurt. I had the wrong earbuds in.
He had them in backwards.
Yeah, I'm in backwards. Now you just got really loud because I am deaf in my left ear, or my right ear. Let's see here. Yeah, Richard has a couple of instances where it looks like Lesko actually improved over Trump's performance in 16. Very statistically anomalous, deficient, de minimis, whatever you want to call it, amounts between 2 and 1%, or 2 and 1 points rather. So, I mean, that's probably going to be. She's probably going to underperform in some areas as well. So it all balance out. I think existing, let's just see if this thing jumps to 8, 8.5, 9. I mean, it's possible, particularly with the strength of election day voting, with typically with what Republicans do. And I really do believe that Debbie Lesko actually ran a good campaign. Feels
So
good to say that.
she ran a real campaign.
She ran a real campaign. I think she ran a real good campaign, actually. So that, and I think the NRCC
When I
gave a
heard
check.
when I heard her on Laura Ingraham this morning, she was. I mean, granted, you can say whatever you want to say on the radio, and it doesn't mean anything until you vote. But she sounded pretty MAGA to me. She was like, "Hell yeah, I want the wall." She was all about border security and the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is like that's a gold mine in Arizona right now.
And Maricopa, you better say that.
Yeah, I mean,
there are parts
you
of
kind of
Arizona
have to say that.
where that doesn't fly the same way, but Maricopa, which is basically home of Sheriff Joe,
Mm-hmm.
you better have that. Better have that mentality. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So we've really got dead air with everybody.
What else is happening? I mean,
They want to get me started on another subject with 3 minutes left to the result dump. I don't think so.
No.
We're gonna talk Debbie Lesko until midnight. So
We're gonna talk Debbie Lesko until the dirt. Okay, that's fine.
till the final handful of dirt is cast upon the Democrats.
That's fair enough.
Grave here. I just
Personally,
think
I don't know anything about her. I just know that she's
she's a
she's not a
physician.
communist.
She's a physician, pretty close to a communist. Believes in universal health care, which puts her right up there with the socialist
Mm,
mantra. And I think
right.
that of course, was always going to keep people in check here. But I think she talked about entitlement protection of, reforming any programs, and that always speaks to a good contingent in the elderly community of Sun City. So, if not getting some Republican votes, she certainly appealed to some Republicans. Whether or not she got their votes, it looks like she may have gotten some, but
Hmm.
it's really difficult because doctors, I've worked with them running for office before, and they tend to get really deeply in the weeds, very analytically minded when it comes down to appealing to people, and it's really hard to keep them up out of the weeds. Not
Hmm.
all of them are like that, but there are some that do that.
I can see how you know too much about a subject and you just get kind of
Hmm.
you can't help.
Particularly healthcare, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
you
a doctor
you
dealing
just
with
can't
healthcare.
help but but you know just get down in there and you can't extricate yourself.
Yeah, and
And at a local level, you want to be in the weeds, but like you almost. I mean, it's nice to know about something, but
yeah, but they
you
tend to
have
go
to
to
be
DC, and then they tend to get locked in to their
mhm,
issue, and they don't really want to move into other issues.
right.
They
I
kind of
see
get
what you mean.
fixated on that. So she had a bit of a salt and pepper personality. There's a little grit there. The Democrat did, but overall, I think that she did as well as a Democrat could do in that district, aided and abetted by just the complete total resistance mindset of the left part of the base. I mean, that is just gonna be there
Mhm,
in almost double digit increase over a typical midterm election or even a typical special election.
right.
You're having that resistance base is coming out at a higher percentage than it would normally do.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it'll be a miracle if we can somehow keep the house. I mean, historically, just every time the midterms, whoever's in power loses it, right?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily loses the majority, but they lose seats.
Lose seats. Okay.
So that varies from getting absolutely ass blasted like Obama did after Obamacare was passed. I think that was, I mean, I don't even know how many seats that was. That was just over the top. That was a hell of a swing. It was so bad that it was
Yeah.
difficult for them to ever
Yeah,
get the majority back. So.
it wasn't only that. I mean, it had to do with the banker bailout too, right?
There might have been some leftover aspects of that when we went back for the second time, when we double dipped and went for um, the bailouts that were done during the presidential in '08, and then went back for the stimulus shit, and that just worked against him in a whole lot of areas outside of dumping $1 billion at a time into our U.S. automakers, and people were getting pissed in other areas. It was a lot of shit that was flying in his face back then, and that's how you have people always asking me about how do we have Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, how do we have John Tester in Montana, why are these people there? And you just say, I mean, that was a presidential election in 2012 where all of the anger was vetted out in 2010, and by 2012 it just we just didn't have enough behind Mitt Romney, and that was it. I mean, it was Mitt Romney. Almost any other candidate, whether it was Rick Santorum, even for God's sakes, I think would have been able to. Maybe not Rick Santorum,
The
but
sweater vest guy.
yeah, sweater vest guy. He was a PA senator. Newt Gingrich, I think, if he would have been able to not say anything as dumb as Mitt Romney did at that fundraiser, about the 47%.
Oh my God, what a
So
disaster!
yeah,
If he
yeah, I
didn't
don't.
strap his dog onto the top of his SUV.
Tie it to the bumper, Clark Griswold style.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe if he just didn't stop doing rallies for the last month.
Yeah. Rallies were hard to do for Mitt. I know that. I mean,
Yeah, it's
working on the
tough.
campaign,
It's tough.
getting people out for him. That's just like I don't know, getting Ken from the Barbie world up on stage there and try to animate him. Wasn't
That
good.
motherfucker, he was like, "Well, I don't know if I'm gonna support Trump in 2020."
Yeah, and then what happened after he said that? Now he's got to fight his way to a
No,
primary
no, he said
election.
that after the primary or after
No,
the
he just said that recently, going into the convention in Utah, expecting to be the
Oh,
the
he had
the,
said
the
that
hands down
before.
winner. Yeah, he
Oh, he
made
had
that
said that
comment
before.
before, which
Oh,
didn't help
I
him
missed
against
that.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
So Kennedy actually, by virtue of beating him in a coin flip out there, doesn't mean he has a foothold to beat him in an actual primary election.
Yeah, how
Um,
did that work?
that's a convention,
that
you
wasn't
know.
even like an election. That was a convention kind of a
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah. If you ever get to watch Debbie Aldrich, when Debbie Aldrich ran for Jason Chaffetz's seat when he left, what they do out there in that instance, they do
I'll
a
ask her about it. I
convention.
was on the phone with her for 2 hours earlier today.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was helping
Yeah.
her. I was helping her with her OBS thing
Okay.
tonight.
So anyway, what you do is you appeal to basically what most people think of the RNC, the Republican National Convention, and you basically appeal to the vote, and then you have a runoff ballot, and if you don't get the greater percentage required, then you have to have an election in order to determine that.
Yeah, you have to get
So
60% of the
yeah,
vote, right?
so you got Kennedy and who was a doctor as well. Um, and now you have Romney. So Romney's still 90% likely to be the nominee and to be the next senator. But it sure was funny watching him eat his humble pie.
I mean, he didn't even win. He got in second, right?
Yeah, he was right up there with this. Now we have an update here on Decision Desk, and it is just some rough aggregate numbers. I think roughly 1/3 of the district, 46 out of 142 precincts crossed over to the Democrat from Trump. So they're trying. This is the silver lining crowd. This is the Democrat guy named J. Miles Coleman, noting that no Hillary Clinton precincts in the eighth, of which there weren't that many, crossed over to Lesko. So that's really not news to me at all. So
Right.
that's just kind of talking point shit right there. Yeah, I don't expect the Democrats to, unless dragged kicking and screaming Obi tomorrow on any of these shows. I don't expect the Democrats to do more than a press release saying how
Yeah.
they're cutting the margins on these districts,
Yeah,
because
they're
this isn't
gonna
a
go.
winner for them.
They're gonna go right back to Cohen and Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, just like Stormy's going right back into porn.
Yeah, I
Classy.
mean, they won't even. They won't even bother to even mention it on Morning Joe or fucking. Excuse me, the Chris Cuomo and Allison Camerata. They're
Yeah.
the CNN. I haven't watched that show in like 2 years. I don't know. I used to watch it and think, oh, this is this is at least not as bad as NPR. Believe it or not, NPR is more fair and balanced than CNN and MSNBC.
I mean, to me, that's like, do I want to jump into this pile of human excrement, or do I want to jump into that pile of human
Oh,
excrement?
I
I mean,
mean, it's horrible.
I was like, okay, this one smells really, really bad, but this one has a lot of corn in it. So, I mean, I was like, really, how am I going to make my decision here? I'd prefer to stay out of both piles of
Don't
excrement.
get me wrong, it's horrible. I unfortunately I monitor it on the drive to work sometimes just to see where the enemy is at.
Well, there's monitoring and then there's monitoring. And I have said this before to my brother. He listens to NPR on the way to work. He doesn't think it's that bad, but I'm just telling you, you're getting desensitized because he's a pretty conservative guy. But they wear you down day by day, with this constant charade.
No. No. It riles me up.
Well, that was my joke. I said to my brother, I was like, we call it monitoring, but I'd have to monitor my blood pressure while I'm monitoring the NPR and the CNN. So I don't want to monitor two things at once. I mean, it's just not worth it to me. I don't need to know what they're saying because I can already tell what they're going to say. I mean, they're very obvious.
Yeah. No, it is. It is like a social experiment to listen to it and to already know the talking points that they're going to talk about, and then to hear them talk about it like hook, line, and sinker, like word for word. It's amazing.
It is kind of funny. And I've noticed it too. There were times where, I'm local, right? I mean, I'm near my family. I see my dad, my brother, and my one sister who lives up here like every week, So I'll notice my brother kind of doing exactly that. He's unintentionally or maybe just unwittingly parroting a line that he heard from NPR in that convincing news-like fashion, right? And it's really just a talking point that is being expressed within that certain realm of the major news network, NBC, CBS, ABC, and then, of course, in a hyperbolic form passed up through with MSNBC and CNN. So it really does, it's so easily countered that you just feel bad that you even have to do it, right? It just seems so obvious that you would hope anyone would be able to figure it out on their own. But again, perspective, frame of reference. My brother goes to work and runs a pretty big operation every day, and he's not listening to anything during the day about any of this shit. And he gets home, between getting home, having dinner, maybe watching a little bit of the Orioles game with his son. He's not watching Hannity. So you've got a guy, my brother is a perfect example for me. I have to go to him to occasionally see what people are feeling, gun owning, somewhat blue collar, though management personalities, the heart of our party, particularly in Pennsylvania. I use him as kind of like a focus group sometimes to see which message that NPR is getting through that's working. So that's how I monitor it, man. I don't actually listen to it. I see if they've actually convinced my brother on a talking point, then I know they're doing something right. And that's how I monitor NPR.
Yeah. No, I'm strictly scientifically listen to it and just maybe 15, 20 minutes a week. Just I tune in randomly just to see. And they are, I mean, they are targeted at smarter people than the CNN and MSNBC audience. The people that listen to NPR are generally much smarter than the people that watch CNN or the target audience of CNN.
There does seem to be that gutter factor. CNN has just gone off the rails with that. Particularly, I heard with their daytime programming has just gone off, into crazy.
I mean, it's pathetic. I mean, Fox's daytime is pathetic too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's horrible. Like, look at Shepard Smith.
Awful. Shepard is terrible. Neil Cavuto, I've learned to hate.
It's not worth watching at all.
No, I don't get on Fox during the day. I will monitor Fox Business throughout the day.
Fox and Friends has good guests. Most of the time, they're kind of
that's
hoity-toity losers.
It's kind of like watching state television. I mean, that's our version of state television. That is like, oh, golly gee, the president's watching me right now. What can I say that's going to tickle his fancy? I mean, that is over the top. I can't do that. I watch Maria Bartiromo. That's more my speed. But there's a great deal. I've talked about this before. a great deal of fatigue in the Fox community viewership. Like all of us are just kind of, it's starting to look like a repeat. I mean, it was the funniest line my wife has ever said, and my wife's not very funny. She wasn't even joking when she said it, Obi. It was like, I'm watching Hannity the other night, which I rarely do unless I'm watching on your Periscope. I'm watching Hannity, and she looks up and she says, "Is this a repeat?" And I said, "What?" She said, "Is this a repeat? I swear to God, you just watched this last night." And I said, "No, that's not a repeat. They don't repeat a live news show." But she earnestly was asking me, and it was a very valid statement because it almost was as if he
Well,
was
I mean,
repeating.
it's the same thing every night, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's like 20% new stuff, but 80% old stuff, or
Uh,
20 is maybe generous.
and 90% of the same people parroting
Yeah,
90% of the same bullshit. So, if you
well,
if not
80% of the
bullshit,
same
but
bullshit.
whatever, the Democrats would watch that and have the same reaction as we would watching an MSNBC panel with
Yeah,
Mad Cow. I mean, I
yeah,
can
with,
see
with Dana Bash and Mad Cow.
yeah, that's just horrifying. I mean, I don't even know how Kelly Conway would sit down across from her in the first place, but I'm not getting any numbers, Obi. I mean,
I'm still not either.
I, I,
It's still the same thing. It's 52.9 to 47.1, and it's trying to I mean, it's supposed to reload. They're saying it's gonna come in. The power of repetition. Hey,
well,
it almost doesn't
I've
even
heard a
matter.
refraction. I've heard a refraction period, but this is a little bit ridiculous.
What I mean,
That's a joke somebody will get in there, and we'll laugh at it. Probably Ernie if he's still on. Maddie's saying not updated till all poll offices come in for gov. Wow, Maddie, you live in Europe because that is some serious European shit. They will not report anything until
yeah.
they're all in.
What is the point of that?
I have
Why
no
do that?
idea.
Unless
They just
they're trying to pull some sort of a scam.
no,
But the
no.
Arizona governor, he's a Republican, right?
Yeah, they're not pulling any scams. They're just it's just stupid. It's a way to keep media interest down. It's a way to you know just there's nothing to see here type of mentality. I hate it. I think it's really dumb. I don't understand why. I really don't. I can't see one good reason to embargo. I understand embargoing for 1 hour all the early vote results, right? I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So the person that just voted at 7 p.m. Um, Arizona time doesn't know the result when they get home 5 minutes later that it's called, that it's over, whatever their reasoning is. I have no idea. And then
Yeah.
embargo that for 1 hour, ensure the results is correct of the early vote tabulations. And then it's out, and obviously people will call the election in cases like this.
I mean,
But
it's already been called.
embargoing the rest makes no sense to me. I mean, I'm just sorry. It just makes no sense to me.
Well,
They're driving me
it
crazy.
seems like they need to hire you in Arizona
For what? To bitch at them?
to
Yeah, I'm sure
change the system.
yeah, right. All right. Well, you know what? This
It's
is going
not.
to require me to actually have a second drink tonight. So my wife's asleep anyway. So we're supposed to be on a cleanse this week. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not supposed to have any alcohol, but I already had one. She went to bed, so I'll just have a second one.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
if everybody will bear with me, I'll just go fill up, and hopefully by the time I sit back down in 2 minutes, we got a precinct report.
That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Who would have thunk it? I, this was not. This was not part of the plan, but it's okay. Just don't drive the sports cars. Yeah. Yeah, Adam's just got to go and, you know, take care of some stuff, you know. If you know what I mean. Oh my goodness. Still nothing. We need the dog. Oh, that's interesting. Unfortunately, oh, maybe fortunately, I could probably make him show up if I wanted to. That would be kind of weird.
I got nothing.
And he's back. Still nothing.
Well, brother, when you invited me on here, bet you thought we were not going to have this much air to kill. So we
Not
might as well
exactly.
answer some questions about some outstanding issues while we're on
Okay,
here.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Ask away. Ask away, people. I mean, I honestly don't have. I haven't thought about any questions that I needed answering. So,
I see
Macron.
Ernie's asking about the PA governor's race, and I'm starting to get questions about this a lot. I think Ernie has followed me long enough to know I have a bit of a distaste for Scott Wagner, but however, my lack of
All right, hold
knowledge.
on.
Okay.
You just jumped away from the screen. Now I'm gonna jump away. So you
Okay,
gotta
I'm
take
answering a
control
question.
for
It's going to
a
take, yeah.
minute or two.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So what I'm going to finish answering Ernie's question here first, and I want to say I don't think that we have an outstanding chance to beat Tom Wolf with either candidate. I think that Lou Barletta against Bob Casey is a much more advantageous battle to put our resources. That having been said, no one will be happier to remove Governor Wolf from office than me, so I can go back and finish what I started at DCNR as a very happy state government executive. That's probably not going to happen. However, I've gotten to know Mango a little bit better, not personally, but through his team and his message. Right now, I would say that that race is probably getting closer, and I think that with another couple of weeks, not even 4 weeks left before the primary, I think there's plenty of time for Mango if his commercials, like the one he showed, I think in the last 24 hours, very effective. He's just he's trying to do the impossible, which is make people see Wagner for like the type of bully that he is. And if that starts to work, it might work out for him. I don't know. I expect Scott Wagner will win the primary, and I expect Scott Wagner will be in a real deep foxhole to try to beat Tom Wolf, who will, as a liberal governor in the state of Pennsylvania, he'll still be able to coast home. You know why? Because Trump is building a sustainable economy. He's building it in a way that is very energy friendly and very manufacturer based. And I think that those are two things that go very well here in Pennsylvania. So even though Tom Wolf is against guns, he's against real energy policy that doesn't include solar and not wiping your ass with more than one ply of toilet paper to be green. I think he'll just keep his mouth shut for the next 6 months and coast back in. So yeah, the chat was broken for a minute there. I think I can see your questions again. So to answer your question, Ernie, is I'll never be a big fan of Wagner, but if Wagner wins primary, I will of course vote for him against Wolf. No, I do not at this time. We are we have a couple other bigger fish to fry at this point, but we are paying attention to that district because that is it. Like I explained, the top quarters, that ISIS seat is in the top 15. Sessions blowing smoke. Theo, not sure what's he blowing smoke about. The reason, let me answer this. The reason Sessions is in the news media saying I am not necessarily recusing myself from Cohen That's all just a bid to keep the president from, breathing fire down his neck. It makes no real sense at all. So why would he? Um, why would he recuse himself from the Cohen case? I have no idea, other than the fact that part of the Cohen case is in the Mueller office and part is in the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's office. So it's very odd that Sessions would say anything about it. It seems to be a preemptive move in some way to try to pacify the president. And I think Rod Rosenstein is in deep doo doo. I read some articles, fake news, clickbait, total clickbait articles that Rosenstein was already looking to get out at this point and looking to go to private sector. They don't know anything about Rod Rosenstein. Rod Rosenstein has spent his entire career since law school in public government services. He's not looking to go any sooner than he has to. So don't believe all that clickbait bullshit. When Rod Rosenstein is ready to go on his own volition or not, I will be one of the first ones to report that to you. And I'll do it without great fanfare. I'll just tell you. And I'm sorry to see so much clickbait out there. I'm sorry to see so much division still existing in the base about this. Now, think about, Obi, we're talking about Jeff Sessions announcing that he hasn't recused himself from Cohen. So I'm just saying that there's not real in-depth ramifications from that action, because what it does tell me is the president, through his chief counsel, McGahn, most likely inquired how the whole raid request was handled. And there is no way in hell that Rosenstein signed off on a raid on the president's private attorney, on his residence, his hotel, and his office. There is just no way, knowing that it fell out of the scope of Mueller's. The whole reason Mueller did it this way was it claimed that it fell out of the scope, but a crime that he witnessed, or whatever evidence arose that by how the executive order phrased it, evidence arose that he had to bring to Rosenstein. Mueller wouldn't be like, well, I'm going to take this to Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office on his own. I mean, that's a decision that was made. And under oath, Jeff Sessions, if he is asked that question, and he's going before Congress, I believe, Obi, this week, tomorrow and Thursday.
Is he
if I'm
really?
not mistaken? Yeah, a typical, committee update type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very curious, under oath or not, how he answers a congressperson, woman or man, who says, "Did you know about the Cohen raid prior to the execution of it? Why are you stating that you're recusing yourself from the Cohen investigation when part of that Cohen investigation is still ongoing by Mueller's office, and you're supposed to not be involved in anything in the Mueller's office investigation?" So that is going to put Sessions in a rough spot. And this all started not only due to the president being furious about the whole thing, but if you read my tweet from yesterday or the day before, Representative Jordan, Jim Jordan, sent a letter to Jeff Sessions this week demanding to know if Jeff Sessions had any idea that this Cohen raid was occurring. And I think that was the burr in the saddle for Sessions coming out and saying he wouldn't answer the question, and he probably won't answer that letter. But he just said that he wasn't aware. I'm sorry, that he won't be recusing himself.
Right. I mean, I thought you said he was aware. Like, or his
No,
office.
I mean, don't misunderstand me. I said
his office was aware, right?
Well, yeah, we know that. We listen. You can't kick in the door to any high-profile attorney without actual, actionable, if you will, prima facie evidence that there's been a crime or a fraud committed that would potentially, most likely, violate the attorney-client privilege. Whether or not that occurred with Trump, most likely not. There was no connection in the evidence that Mueller gave the Southern District of New York that connected Cohen's commission of a fraud or some other type of crime with the president, because then it would stay within Mueller's investigation, right? That stays under his purview.
Something's starting to happen. It went up to 13% reporting.
Yeah, we got 18 precincts on one page here. The margin looks like it's holding steady.
I listened to an interesting Periscope today from Judicial Watch,
Yeah.
and I forget one of the guests. I think it was Tony Schaefer. He claimed that somewhere is around 70% of the FBI resources were diverted just into the Trump investigation during the election cycle.
Probably referring to one or two particular parts of the FBI, the counterintelligence and the centralized divisions that go into that type of forensics work in
Mhm.
association with counterintelligence. Not not all of the FBI
Yeah,
assets,
I mean,
which
it
are of
can't
course
be all
nationwide.
30,
No,
36,000 FBI
no,
agents. Yeah.
no, no. No, but yeah, I think it's a really irrationally applied sense of an investigation. And I think it's so drastically out of whack that people are, again, losing that magic word perspective. It is just outrageous. Nunes is the only one attempting to explain it in the terms that people can understand. Is yes, there has been, in fact, collusion, be it criminal or not. It has occurred. It does involve the Russians. It just wasn't undertaken by Trump and his team. It just happened to be his opponent.
Mhm.
And I told you many months ago that it was not going to be that part of the investigation that revealed all this, that it was going to be when we got into the Department of State. And when we found out 2 months ago from his staff, and I reported this on Periscope and I even tweeted about it, that his staff was saying that they could not keep up with the influx of witnesses who were coming in to testify on behalf of what had happened under the State Department under Obama to them. So there, if you wonder why Nunes is saying things that just is driving Adam Schiff crazy, like how can he say that type of thing? It's
Mhm.
because that's the ace up the sleeve. I mean, we know, and that's why you're starting to hear more about Sidney Blumenthal, and that's why you're starting to hear more about the State Department.
And Corey Scheer and all
Yeah,
those
Corey
guys.
Scheer, which is basically dossier number two. They're all tied together, and if anybody's going to be talking, I always get a big kick out of all these tweet thread jockeys out there that are just saying, well, this person in the FBI here has a relationship here, so this person is still employed, so they're obviously cooperating. No, just forget all that shit. The real key to breaking this thing wide open are mid-level State Department employees who are about to freaking just blow the doors off this thing until they get to one of the bosses
Mm.
under John Kerry, and probably somebody who was still there under Hillary. So if there's any real bombshell that's going to expose like deep state shit, it's most likely to come from this phase of what Devin Nunes is doing. It's the State Department, which the Democrats know. And what are the Democrats attempting to do right now that has to do with the State Department? What are they doing right now that makes politically no sense?
Well, they're trying to stop Pompeo from getting it.
Bingo, bingo.
Too bad they failed.
Well, I know they failed, Obi, but they didn't fail in inferring that there was something improper with him,
Well,
that his judgment
I
is
mean,
overly political and ideological. They
well,
need to do that preemptively to paint whatever comes under his purview when he finds out what was done
yeah,
under it.
but I mean, does anyone care what Menendez and Kane think?
Well, besides CNN and MSNBC and
Yeah.
NPR and New York Times and Washington Post, well, depends on what they think of those publications and news sources. So it's very important to them to undercut Mike Pompeo's status as the Department of
Yeah.
State, because when he attempts to rectify
Because they
all
know what's coming down.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it won't work with Mike Pompeo. It did work with Jeff Sessions.
Mhm.
It won't work with Mike Pompeo.
Any quick thoughts about Giuliani?
Um, no, only because I'm waiting on something, and I've told a bunch of people this, and I'm not going to elaborate on it because it's not mine to elaborate on. I'm waiting for a development that I'm allowed to report. When I'm allowed to report it, I will get on and report it. Um,
Fair enough.
I don't want to. I don't want to get in front of anything. You know what I mean? And I just want to say that the Mueller team, quote unquote, is not amused by this development. But no, I'm sorry. They were quote unquote reported to be amused,
Oh, to be
which means
amused.
they are not amused. They
Right.
are not amused by this. So I'm not going to
Right.
get into Rudy's experience, Rudy's relationships that still exist in some of these offices with mid-level or higher in the U.S. Attorney's office, particularly in the Eastern and Southern District in New York. So I'm not really going to say a lot more on this, other than the
Mhm.
fact that I think it's Rudy was. I will say this: Rudy was kept off the air as a vocal surrogate for a reason,
Mhm.
and that
I
was,
was wondering,
you know,
like, did he just disappear? I mean, I remember that they said he was working on some sort of a cyber thing. You remember it? You remember
mm-hmm.
that?
Which is a huge issue, which is the cyber defense.
Yeah.
Um, he's been doing that around the world, actually, on a private contract basis. So I'm not really sure. I think it was a task force that he was working
Yeah,
on it
some
with.
sort of a task force. Yeah.
But the other component is you've got to keep him on the set. If going to have him do this, he can't be right up and
Yeah.
into it, because you already had that with Jay Sekulow. And Jay Sekulow went from his radio show every day right into the president's legal team saying the
Mhm.
same things, right? Had you repeated that and just take another surrogate right off the, you know, yellow brick
Well,
road.
it's almost like DeGeneva too.
But yeah, Joe, there's more to that story too. And when this is all over, we'll talk about it. But it certainly doesn't behoove anybody to discuss exactly what went down there. Suffice to say that the president has tremendous respect for both Victoria and Joe.
Mhm.
There were issues at hand and at play that just made their role inside the team problematic. So the Raskins out of Southern Florida, former federal prosecutors, they're they're like the straight version of Victoria Tunzing and Joe DiGenova, and I mean that in the Broadway sense, okay, the vaudevillian sense. They're the straight team. They're the no frills, no media tour types. Federal prosecutors retired. They're on the team now. They'll be working in conjunction with Rudy, who is working in conjunction with Ty Cobb, who has been, by all accounts, an incredible figure at keeping this thing from just completely collapsing. Ty Cobb has been doing a very understated but pretty incredible job, by all accounts of the lawyers that I talked to
Mhm.
on behalf of the president.
It's interesting because I mean, no surprise to anyone, but they make Ty Cobb seem to be like some sort of a bumbling fool from like down from Alabama or something like that,
Midwest, yeah,
or
but there's a reason.
Midwest.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a reason. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I think he designs it that way,
Right.
and those who
That
seek
makes
to
sense.
play off on that as a caricature, they take it up and do it, and others just don't know how to really report on him. Fox News and some Sinclair types are generally just not well positioned to indicate too much about Ty Cobb, and that's a credit to him. Dowd, as far as John Dowd's concerned, I mean, he did a pretty good job, but he couldn't handle the team of horses, which is basically one man, Donald Trump. I mean, it's like handling a team of freaking horses on a carriage going through the Wild West without paved streets. I mean, that is like being one of us two lawyers trying to navigate this whole thing for the president. He couldn't handle that. So his arms got really tired, and as soon as Joe DiGenova walked in the door for an interview, John Dowd was out. I mean, he just, he's been around too long and he wasn't going to deal with it anymore. Cobb has just been He's been that quiet, voice of reason. But it's not just him. Cobb knows who else he can talk to and trust within the entire Republican lawyers network. That's a real gift that he has. He's very respected, and he gets a lot of solicited and unsolicited advice from that network of lawyers, which, while they don't want to drop their own clients and turn over their own lives and have their doors kicked in, they do want to see the president succeed. So I don't want people to think out, read these articles. President Trump can't get a lawyer. President Trump can't get this and that. It's taking on the case. Being a part of Trump's legal team means you are going to be personally put under a microscope by the entire national media and by the deep state itself. And they'll come out and come after you. So,
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's happening. And, if you look at Manafort's lead attorney, wasn't aware that he'd have to essentially be fired from his law firm or represent Paul Manafort, because his law firm said, no way, we're not dealing with this, the ramifications of this. And now I think kicking in the door of Michael Cohen just sent a chill right through, and it was designed that way. Kicking in the door of Michael Cohen had two real big objectives for Mueller. One, should Mueller be fired or limited or in any way in the investigation, this Southern District of New York investigation won't stop. This isn't part of the investigation by the EO issued by Rosenstein. So like I said before, he's kind of populating and germinating seeds, if you will, cross-pollinating. So the more he can get of these issues into different jurisdictions, the longer he lives.
I mean, Schneiderman is trying to, or maybe not Schneiderman, but in New York, they're trying to change the rules where you can charge people for double jeopardy.
Well, that's Schneiderman. Yeah, Schneiderman's trying to change the law about pardons. There's a loophole that has yet to be really properly litigated. But there is a loophole that's arguable, that the federal pardon wouldn't carry over to a state criminal effect. So Schneiderman is in working with Cuomo.
And I remember hearing about that a year ago, where Mueller was planning on doing that with Schneiderman, when the Manafort case first was being litigated and talked about. I remember that reading a story how they were planning on sharing the information with the state attorney, so that if in the off chance that Trump were to pardon Manafort, then maybe it wouldn't be the same charges, or maybe it was actually the same thing, the loophole you were talking about. But they were talking about that a year ago.
It's not, and I remember you talking about it. You actually asked me, I think, on a Periscope, and I responded to this. It's not exactly written in stone that you can't pardon somebody for state crime. It's if you pardon somebody that's been charged with a federal crime, does that change whatever you're charging them on the state crime? Now, it's a jurisdictional issue. So it's arguable, and I don't think it would ever hold up. I mean, it just, there's prosecutorial discretion, and then there's prosecutorial misconduct. So you wouldn't want to put all that effort into, depending on which judge came out of the wheel.
At the same time, the process is the penalty. Even if you get off, you've spent $1 million defending yourself, and you've had to mortgage your house.
Exactly. It's just the same with white collar crime. It's insider trading. There's a balance scale that the U.S. attorneys will use, and the SEC, but mostly the U.S. attorneys when you spill into this, and certainly the federal government with the IRS criminal tax division. There's a balance of penalties to be paid versus jail time. And the higher the penalties go, traditionally, the less jail time or minimum security or even house arrest. So there's that balance has to be struck somewhere in there. But again, that is still subject to judicial review. So just because you make some deal on the side, it still has to be approved by the judge. Depending on who that judge is, good luck to you. And it's just, there's so much at war here that they're just trying to slow everything down that Trump is doing, so that Trump, 2 terms of Trump is inconceivable to them, because he will still have the Senate no matter what the hell happens. We will still have at least 52 to 53 seat majority in the Senate.
We better.
And that's good, right? Because they can't really, in the House, they can't stop his judicial appointments. There's nothing they can do. They can cry and throw fits. But that's just the way it's going to be. Trump is going to upend, through judicial appointments, the entire legal system.
I just read an article today where he's gonna change the Ninth Circuit.
Yeah, we can do that too. We can break
or
it up.
not break it up, but he's gonna, his reappointments are gonna change the makeup.
Oh, yeah. Did you look at that list? You see how many? There's some freaking Jimmy Carters on there. There's a Gerald Ford on there.
I mean, you just look at the way they've ruled. 80% of their rulings gets overturned. I mean, they're literally communists.
Well, and they're also aware enough that Ginsburg is not going to survive.
Yeah. I mean, she's
so
not going to make it 6 more years.
Yeah,
no.
It's not going to happen. So they are just adamant to slow down as much as they can.
And Kennedy's going to retire after this next term, right?
Yeah, so we get to replace a swing vote with hopefully a hardcore, well, really, not hopefully, definitely a hardcore. Much more farther right than Gorsuch.
Yeah.
Because now we blew up the filibuster. So, we do that. And my concern is, they're going to make that an election issue now. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen before the general. I think it's going to work out for us in a couple of different Senate seats where it's really close, and we make it about anything we want, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're in Tennessee and Blackburn is, losing by 5 points, now all of a sudden we have a Supreme Court retirement. And in Tennessee, there's a couple of important issues, mainly pro-life and pro-gun, which get decided predominantly where? SCOTUS. Could change the whole dynamic of Missouri, Tennessee, Montana, North Dakota. Forget about it, definitely. And it might actually help us in the weaker seats that we have to defend, and that being Arizona and Nevada, perhaps. We'll see. So,
is John McCain ever gonna just roll over and die, or what's going on?
No, he's hanging on, man. He's really hanging on. I mean, I don't know. I'm beginning to think that John McCain himself is counting votes in the 8th district right now in Arizona. I'm beginning to think that they're giving him stacks of ballots. He's wheeling.
He's the guy.
To the courthouse, getting these numbers reported. I mean, this is the 18 precincts. It's pretty traditional first time after your polls close. It's not even 90 minutes. You get the smaller precincts will just dump, and we see by the totals reported very small precinct. If not, then I'm not getting the accurate data that the precincts that it's reporting have already been in the total, which it looks like totals have not moved much. So I think we're just probably getting screwed with how it's getting reported on the websites.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it could be that. It could just be...
Or it could be that few amount of people on election day are coming out of these 18 precincts.
No, I mean, I don't think it's that.
It is that because we don't know which precincts are, and if they're the smaller ones, and you think that there's only 25,000 votes out of 143 precincts, it's not going to move the needle very much when the first ones get reported. Yeah, so I mean it just doesn't look like much to me, but it might be a couple hundred. I don't know. Very frustrating.
It's been stuck on 13% for the last while now. It's been stuck on 18 of 143.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got. I'm going back to Twitter to see if I have any updates here.
At least that's what the evil communist New York Times is telling us. I mean, they're still telling us Debbie Lesko is already... I mean, with 0% in, they already knew that Debbie was going to win.
Here's a funny one. 20 minutes ago, posted 20 minutes ago from Decision Desk. So roughly 12:30 Eastern, our time. First truck is on site at Maricopa elections. Should see election day vote soon.
Oh, God.
Unbelievable. 9 minutes ago, 18 precincts. Lesko won those precincts 53-47. Same margin.
Yeah.
Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Very few votes cast. Extrapolated to the rest of the district. It's not nearly enough for her to overcome her deficit. Wow. Decision Desk, last one to the party. Welcome home. Decision Desk HQ. With election day, before they aren't lining up with what she. Wow, they're still, as of 7 minutes ago, we're still kind of figuring out if the Democrat still had a chance to close this deficit. That to me is just astounding.
I mean, it just goes to show how ridiculous and how desperate and just how full of crap they are. I mean,
maybe they're just being overly gracious,
no,
to the process of counting votes.
No. These people have no idea what universe they're living in. They're just out of their mind, and they really think that they can win. They really think that Trump colluded with the Russians. They really think that Hillary Clinton actually won and should be the president. They really think.
Yeah,
I mean, they're out of their fucking mind.
Let me remind you, Obi, that we have a lot of people on our side who really believe that Trump won the popular vote by 7 million votes, and that it was going to be released this week by the NSA.
No, it was going to be released in like March, actually.
February, March, but now again, it's been retweeted again. Big 7 million popular vote total. Trump actually won. The NSA of all fucking people, the NSA is going to release this data. I mean,
because
it's so mind-numbingly dumb that I have a hard time. Saying it with a straight, I can't say it with a straight face clearly, but we do have people on our side that believe this stuff.
Because when it didn't happen the first time, you just regurgitated again 2 months later. The same prediction. In 2 weeks, the NSA is gonna release the numbers that Trump actually got 70 million votes and Hillary actually got 58 million or whatever it is. I saw that.
Obviously,
tweet.
I have an aggrieved perspective because of the white hat theory that's just kind of permeated the conversation and pierced my flesh like a stinger off a bee's ass. But like Tony's asking on here, Sessions is not at the state dinner tonight. Is there any significance to that? No, there's not. I think he's on the road again, pimping out some policy that Trump likes so that he can keep his job for another 2 weeks. So no, there's no significance to that. So it just seems like I'm constantly peeing on a conspiracy parade, Obi. I mean, that seems like my life lately. It's just like I'm at Mardi Gras, standing on a third-story deck balcony, you're peeing on the conspiracy parade.
You're constantly trying to make enemies on Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
With all of the QAnon crowd.
It seems like I gain about 50 sane people a day and lose about 75 insane people a day. I mean, I'm okay with that ratio. I'm all right with it.
I'll take 20 sane people that like me and 10 million crazy people that hate me.
All I could say in my own defense is that I try to answer as much as possible, and there are people that I think come to me as a last resort because they try to make the best possible determination themselves as to whether or not this is real that they're reading. And I think that I get a lot of emotive responses out of them is because I might be one of the last 2 or 3 people that they check with and have to, pee on that parade. And a lot of times I just get a lot of exasperation. I get a lot of angry emojis sent my way. But I've noticed, Obi, that they will also come back the next time and ask. It's no skin off my nose if they don't, right? But I believe that they really earnestly eventually want to know the truth. And I'm not claiming to be the
Yeah.
arbiter of truth. I'm just telling you I will tell you what I know, and if I can give you
Yeah.
the
And
information, I'll
and
give it to you.
what's frustrating to me is, let's just say everything keeps going the way it seems like it's gonna go,
Hmm.
and like Comey potentially maybe does get charged. McCabe probably will get charged. Like
Maybe, yeah.
McCabe more than likely will get charged,
Yeah,
right?
I haven't moved off that percentage, 75
Like
25. I think it'd be very difficult
like
for
Comey, I don't
for
know,
anyone left.
probably less than half, but whatever. Maybe something will happen, and then people will say, "See, you got to trust the process. See, everything's happening just like it's supposed to happen." And it's like, uh,
Yeah, again, I don't really see how trust the plan includes kicking in Michael Cohen's door.
no, I'm with you.
No,
I'm
I
just
know you're never
playing
going to argue
devil's
the other point.
advocate.
I just enjoy watching you when you tweet out that 2-minute clip of Jeff Sessions at his confirmation hearing. I know it's funny because I know that people don't know this story, but you and I actually talked about this once, and I said you actually called me and said, "Hey, I remember you mentioning this Grassley questioning at the confirmation hearing, recusing, Jeff Sessions recusing himself. Do you have that anywhere?" And I remember, just sending you a link, and you clearly were like, "Wow, why does no one ever look at this?" I remember that was your initial reaction. It was just like, "Wow, why is 90% of Twitter speculating on something that's already basically been said under oath?"
Yeah.
And I still get a kick out of it because I notice you put this out every couple of weeks, and you just watch. It's like a fly trap. You just watch all the conspiracy theorists just come in. Some are nice about it, and some are just nasty about it. But they all really they're all Fox Mulders. That's what we call them, right? Fox
Fox
Mulders.
Mulder
I
from
want
X
I want
Files.
to
Yeah.
believe. I want to
I,
believe.
I got one person today who was like, "Oh, now that I've seen that clip, now I really believe that we have to trust the process."
Oh
Like
my gosh.
Sessions knew what was happening, and I totally believe it.
That you at that point you just slowly walk away, right, with your hands up, no sudden movements. um, you stay away from Waffle House because that's a crazy person that you're dealing with. Yeah. I try not to mock people because I think that's a gift and an art best left to Glenn Herman. But there are times where it becomes the suspension of disbelief is such where you must seriously believe that there's a pot of gold somewhere under that damn rainbow. And if you hop in your car and go chasing after the bottom of that damn rainbow, I don't care what happens to you after that, right? I
Mm.
mean, it's just weird because, again, I've talked about this example before. It's still the best one I can find. The shitty metaphor, but I have to use it. I mean, it's just, you have to show your work, right? I mean, you have to show that you know how you got from point A to Z, and whether it's an equation in math or any other type of quantum physics, it's very hard to know why something's happening if you can't explain the math all the way up to the final result. And I think we just have a bunch of people that are not quote unquote showing their work. So we have a lot of people out there that are putting out these long Twitter threads, and they're coming up with these fantastical scenarios, but they don't make any sense because they're not linear in a fashion that make government sense or even legal sense. They just kind of like gloss over a whole lot of realities on their way to
Yeah.
their fantastical
Yeah.
answer, right?
Yeah.
So
They start at A and go right to Z, and
yeah,
forget
and
the
that's
rest of
fun,
the
right? I mean,
alphabet.
that's fun. I mean, who doesn't want to just skip to the end of the book, right? I mean, It's like watching a kid. You're just like, I'm going to go to the back of the book. I want to find out who won. I mean, it's just like, that's not how you learn about the Civil War, son. I mean, what do you want to tell these people? Is you have to understand history, and it's really what drives me nuts. And I don't follow the Q thing at all. You know that. I don't follow it. I don't
Right.
read it. I don't know anything about it. But when this whole future proves past axiom like a mantra, it is so stupid. It hurts my head, like
No,
right
the
here.
the thing that hurts my head is when I see it get posted and then I just read the syntax and people think that I mean, like the more disjointed and the worse the syntax, the more realistic it is.
Or yeah, or decipherable by special
Yeah.
people amongst us,
Oh
right?
yeah, because
Yeah.
like they say everything disjointed and out of context, and they drop these little hints and cues.
Hmm.
Cues. I mean, it just that right there. It's like it drives me nuts.
It should drive you nuts, and you know that we know people who do legit military intelligence work, and they don't talk about it,
No.
and they really are not supposed to even be hanging around Twitter and Facebook and the like, and they risk their jobs just viewing other people's opinions, never
Yeah.
mind stating their own. But we
No,
know
if
from
there was
having
someone
conversing
that
with them,
if
this is
there was
ridiculous.
someone that really had Q clearance that said one thing on Twitter, they would be rounded up and if not jailed forever, just taken out. I mean, come on.
All, all I know are two things for sure about Q. When I don't know anything about Q, really, all I know is that Occam's razor tells me two things about Q. QAnon is not a Russian because Twitter would have already, you know, blocked everybody and removed any account that even retweeted them, right? Because
Mhm.
they're that sensitive to anything right now. So if
Right.
there was an 8chan or 4chan or Reddit strand, wherever they pick up this shit from QAnon, if they had a ping that gave off anything related to the Russians or anybody in their little propaganda machine, it would have been ICNAID.
Right.
So I know
Vaccinated.
that. I know it's not. And I also know that it's not a real Q clearance or any clearance, military personnel or otherwise, DOD or private contractor with any access
Well,
to
it
any
would be it
actual
would be
intelligence. Those are the
the
only two things I know.
it would be the Department of Energy is what they call it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Because
See, I wouldn't even know that much.
the Department of Energy is the only one that has all those super high level because it deals with nuclear stuff.
Nuclear stuff. See, I don't even. It wouldn't even. I don't even need that type of edification for myself.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe it's Rick Perry,
yeah,
right? Maybe
it's
it's Rick
Rick
Perry.
Perry. I
I don't.
hadn't
I
even
don't know.
thought of that, but boy, I think you cracked the cue.
I might have cracked the Q because you know what? I know Rick Perry, and he does speak and write in broken syntax, so it very well could be. His grammar is awful, so we're still stuck on 18. I mean, this is unbelievable. This
You know, it doesn't even matter.
it does
I,
to me. Again, I have my intellectual curiosity, and I also may have side bets, Obi, on what the percentage is going to
Side
be.
bets.
um, we are right in my wheelhouse right now. I would like to see it two more points up.
I
That's
still
what I'd like to
think
see.
we're gonna get better than
Oh, I
than
definitely agree with you.
than what we have now.
I,
I mean, this is a comfortable win, but I think it's gonna be more
I
comfortable.
think it's going to be close. Mm, I think we're going to be pushing 55.
Hmm.
Mm, maybe, maybe. If the margin is larger, typical e vote or e day vote versus EV vote being what it is, I think we're pushed the margin up. We're right about 53% right now.
Yeah.
So it's statistically possible for us to nail 55.
Yeah, I mean, I would, but like I was saying, when Debbie Lesko was on Laura Ingraham this morning, the Democrat talking points were if they lose by less than 15%, then it's actually that means that there's a blue wave that's gonna come. I
That's not
mean
possible.
that's the way they're trying to spin it.
It's ridiculous. Maddie has access to numbers that are slightly updated compared to ours. I'm not sure, Maddie, how you have them. Um, if you have a website that we could follow along with, that'd be great. I'm on 4 different ones, including your own county returns. So
Yeah, what you got, Maddie?
Maddie's got some secret AZ connection. It could
Losing
very
is
well
the
be
new
local
winning.
television news.
Tara reminded us that losing is the new winning. So
Mm-hmm. Oh.
especially in Arizona, '08,
And
especially.
I won't rehash old history, but I will say that negative commentary about the Republican candidate is Twitter reporting it. Jesus, Twitter's ahead of the Secretary of State website. Okay, but the things that were said about Debbie Lesko were obviously wrong. They were erroneous. All the quote unquote troublesome FEC transactions. They
Oh,
were reported.
I didn't hear anything about
Yeah,
that.
that was why she was called a quote unquote criminal by a certain somebody out there who was just having a baby fit because they got 734 votes, and that then they further concluded that Debbie was going to lose this election. So I mean, there's a certain lesson here for the people. The credibility of that person is also giving you a lot of these whatever they call them
Okay, I
drops,
reloaded the New York
intel
Times.
drops.
Now
We
we're
got
looking at
86.
52.6
Yeah.
and 60%.
So it looks like
60% reporting, yeah, 86, yeah.
the Democrat is going to hold a margin. I wanted 8. I said 6, but I wanted 8. So
Mm-hmm. I still
uh,
think it could go back
I
up.
think we're running out of votes here. 60% reporting. So you're probably only dealing with about
It's still
less
like
than
the
ten
same
thousand
amount of
votes.
votes. It's still like 166,000 votes.
Yeah, so you're probably only looking like 13,000 votes outstanding. So that's not going to swing you wildly.
Hmm.
Like I was saying earlier about percentages, it was about the existing vote out left. Could she get up to 10 and 12%? That would drive her up from 6 to 8. You know what I mean in total.
Yeah.
But she's not reaching that from the first half of precinct reporting. So we're not going to get to 8%. Um, but
Hmm.
again, I said tonight on
I mean, to be
if
fair,
you're watching Glenn earlier, Glenn's like, I don't, we're not going to do this, and I was like, yeah, it's called a 6-point win and go to bed. That's what we're looking at. I mean, we're the dumbasses that stayed awake for it.
we do it for the people, right?
Yeah, yeah, we do it for the
I
peeps.
mean, we could have easily just went to bed and woken up and been like, "Oh, she won by
Yeah,
6. Perfect."
I know, and I didn't even share this thing out. I mean, that was my fault.
Yeah. Oh, you
I was so
share it on your
excited.
account that no one follows.
I'm doing both.
Okay.
Smart ass motherfucker.
Let's see. I mean,
Because believe it or not, I've found some new followers on that account that don't follow me on my other one.
excellent.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Let's see if Decision Desk finally came to their
Did, did you ever
decision.
did you ever replace Jeff Sessions yet or what?
No, man. First order of business was replacing the engine in the car, and that was,
Right.
and then the transmission of the van. It got a new minivan. I don't know if you followed my Periscope the other
Yes,
day.
I did.
It's not a new minivan; it's a used
New
minivan. But
for you.
my wife is happy. She's like, she wanted another Honda Odyssey. We had a like older Honda Odyssey, but
Hmm.
they actually retained their value pretty damn well. I found out, so I was like, And for the first time in my life, and for the first time in hers, we bought an American car, and that's because she fell in love, not in love with the vehicle. She fell in love with the 10-year powertrain warranty, 10-year, 100,000. Because she, the looking at the invoice, or what it would have cost to replace the transmission, she never wanted to see that again. So we end up owning a Chrysler Town and Country minivan now. Very
Ah,
proud owners. Very proud.
excellent.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, indeed. I got nothing for the
One,
last
one,
20
one
minutes.
good thing about American vehicles is every every repair shop knows how to fix them,
Mm-hmm.
and every store has the
Parts.
parts in stock.
Yeah, you're right. And Maddie actually nailed it too. There are a bunch of safety features. Just really, the Americans suck at like electronics and all the other shit that goes on, but they really have great safety features in this van, and got a hell of a deal on it versus like $4,000 cheaper than it would have been for an Odyssey of the same year in mileage. So
Hmm.
and less, and obviously don't have that warranty. The warranty on the Honda would have been up. So made the right deal. Now I can proudly say we buy American. Now I just have
That's
to get
right.
rid of that freaking Infinity, brother. That's all. I'm gonna take if anything ever goes wrong with another car, I'm driving up to your area and taking it to what's his name there, Barry or Harry or
Barney.
Gary Barney. Yeah, that
Barney.
was. I don't think anybody else will ever enjoy a scope as much as I enjoyed that scope.
Barney is awesome.
Your walk there, your walk through the yard, it was just awesome. It could have
Barney
been Royal
kicks
PA.
ass.
It really could have been.
Barney kicks ass. He's like, oh yeah, there's a little thing that was wrong. It was. I mean, that he's so funny. And then he's like, oh, actually, it was. I mean, have you ever been to a place where they tell you it's going to cost 180 on the
Mm-hmm.
phone, and then you get there and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, actually, it was only 160. It's
No,
like,
it's
yeah.
not. And that's why you were smart. You gave him 180 and called it a day. I was laughing, man. I just thought that's like barely over parts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
just
I mean, not even lose like a half hour over parts or something, you know?
yeah, that's
And it
amazing.
probably took him 2 hours.
But you'll never
But,
go anywhere else,
but
man.
I mean, because he runs a tow shop, so he just sits
Mm,
around and does nothing and waits to get called to do towing. And if he's gonna, if a car comes in and and he needs it to be fixed, he'll just like sit around and do it. And there's always like four random hicks that are hanging around that help him out. Just random people that are like that guy when I walked into the back end of the shop. He's like, "Oh, that was your Jeep? Oh yeah, that idler pulley was totally gone." Like he didn't
well,
work there. He was just like a guy that was there that like hangs out and helps, you know?
the funniest part to me was you're saying that out loud right in front of his face. Like the guy you were talking about is standing like 6 feet away from you. Man, like, yeah, there's always some random hicks hanging out here. And the guy's he's right there. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
mean,
wow,
he would have said, "Yeah, exactly."
yeah, unbelievable.
And then like that black guy showed up. He's like, "Oh yeah, where do I?"
Dude, when you showed the no smoking sign, it was like a Scorsese film to me. I mean,
the
I don't,
no
no one else
the no
appreciates this shit.
smoking sign.
But you're like, you show that little fucking sign that had to be like 70 years old. No, because they actually smoked that long ago. But anyway, it was like a 10, 15-year-old little sign. Thank you for not smoking. And you walk around like four guys are all freaking like chimneys, like it's like West Virginia coal mine shit. It was awesome, man. It's just that's the kind of shit you can't choreograph. You can't decide in advance what you're going to do, but it's an amazing thing to watch. I love it. I mean, that to me is reality TV.
Yeah.
Like you're walking up the road, you're like, yeah, my fucking truck's broken. I got to walk. You guys might as well walk with me. And, it's just, man, I don't know, man. That's why I don't like to rip. I don't like to rip Periscope. I know it has its functional component deficits. I know it has pissed off to no end our mutual friend, Glenn Herman. Sure. But, where else can you get that type of experience?
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's so weird. And then we're all watching this together too, right? I mean, we all watch elections together.
Yeah, I mean, Periscope is crazy. Periscope, I have a extreme love-hate relationship with it. The most reason that I hated it is because idiots can just mass report you and get you kicked off of it.
That needs to be remedied, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the rest of it, we can deal with trolls. We can deal with
trolls are fine. They're kind of exciting, actually.
Periscope
I mean, given
wars,
everything that I've dealt with,
we've proven we can win Periscope wars. But being sneaky and underhanded and surreptitiously reporting people in mass to get them banned, that's pathetic. And
it is, and to have it come from supposedly your own side, that's like the worst part.
If that's my side, I'm on. I want my own side. I don't want anything to do with those people.
No, but
I know what you're saying. I mean, theoretically, supposed to be on the Trump side, if not at least the Republican side, right?
No, on the MAGA side, supposedly.
I mean, it's not something I identify with.
I just don't understand.
Mass reporting of people. It just seems like, why not just grow dreadlocks and go out and cover my face and yell at Ben Shapiro? I don't understand.
Not that I like Ben Shapiro either.
No, well, I'll yell at him, but I'm not going to put a black mask on. And, I mean, but who doesn't like it when their mom yells downstairs that the pizza bites are ready? I mean, we all miss that part of our life.
Ben Shapiro was exceptionally being a jerk to Kanye. Not that I'm saying Kanye is awesome in the least, but he was being incredibly unflattering to him.
Well, let me say this. The reason I never get excited about shit like this is because you never get too hyped up when any said celebrity gets on board with your cause.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I'm not excited.
Or even downside when they come out against you. It's okay to bust shit out of Cher and Rosie O'Donnell and people that are just like so ridiculously heinous on Twitter. But you're going to find out that these personalities at that level are so volatile and so prone to doing a 180 that you're best not to take one quote from Shania Twain in an article and go tweet it out saying how awesome she is, and then 30 minutes later she issues a 4-tweet apology, and then you have to turn around and fucking say, what a bitch, I'm never buying another album again. I mean, just don't get ahead of yourself on this stuff, because I mean, for a long time I held back and hedged on Roseanne because I didn't see the normal symmetry that you would see of somebody who would support our issues. But I've noticed that she's a unique animal. It's more social commentary than it is politics. And I like it.
I've been following Roseanne on Twitter for like a year. She was like a Pizzagator.
If not in the Comet ping pong whatever sense, in the overall sense, that there was
certainly not in the Comet ping pong sense.
I think a lot of people are looking at this what's her name, this Mac girl, this former Smallville actress that's now tied up.
I haven't really followed that.
There are some people that think that this is related to Pizzagate and all this. I mean, let the facts unfurl as they will. And I'm telling you, I highly doubt an actress that nobody ever heard of before, who is a part of a freaking known dysfunctional sex cult, is in any way
I heard
an
she tweeted
integral.
out one of those Abramovich tweets or a picture of Abramovich or something.
What spirit cooking shit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which leads right back into the Alfontes and all that crap. Hey, I don't. I
Hey,
don't.
if it turns
I
out,
don't.
it turns out. I mean, the point of us guessing at it,
I don't
we
want to
got
go there.
photographs.
All I know is I don't. I don't like. I would not buy the art that Tony Podesta had in his house. Put it that way.
Hmm.
Or that they
No, there's
had.
definitely something wrong with those guys. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. But in the end, we are in power right now. So if there's some kind of mass conspiracy that's just like pervading the entire government for the highest branches, then it's our responsibility to declassify it and prosecute the shit out of it. Just remember that we're in charge of all of them, right? I mean, we're in charge of everything, everything, the executive branch, Congress, judiciary. I mean, basically, we're in
Yeah,
charge of all of it. So if there's a
everything that's
conspiracy that's still
electable.
working, it's a problem for us.
Yeah, but not like the unelectable bureaucratic permanent state.
Yeah. It, are they in control of a weird underground
No,
sex
no,
trafficking? I
I'm
mean,
not even
no, I
talking
get what
about
you're
that.
saying, but understand what I'm saying is that every time we assail the FBI or assail the DOJ, which I do myself on executive levels, um, somebody somewhere is going to ask the right question, and they have been, particularly on these. Why is there a redaction on this memo and on this memo? Uh, Trump, he should just go and declassify all of it, right? And so
Yeah.
eventually, that's the answer to the whole thing. I mean, not the answer, but the question that's going to get us in trouble. The reason why Trump can't basically unredact, making up a word, the memos that Rosenstein and Ray were fighting over. So it's because he's involved in that investigation, whether or not he wants to be, or whether they tell him he's a target or not.
Hmm.
So it makes sense for him not to do that. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, technically he can, but it just doesn't. It's not gonna get anywhere better. If he does it, it's just gonna end up opening more can of worms.
yeah, they'll say he's politicizing the intelligence, the counterintelligence, and it just never fucking ends, man. Almost like the vote tabulation in Arizona in Maricopa County. It
Yeah,
just
it
never
never
ends.
ends, right?
It just never ends.
They're stuck on 60%. It's like Pennsylvania on November 8th,
Well, that's one of my
2016.
favorite stories to tell because we all knew, but they wouldn't report it, and it was my old home county, and I'll never forget that night for as long as I live. I mean, of all the places that I thought I was going to be when the vote totals were coming in, I naturally assumed that I was going to go. I was going to be in New York, and then all of a sudden it became I'll be lucky to get back to Philly, and then it became I'm in Lebanon County, where I used to be a county chairman. Never wanted anything to do with it again. Standing in that freaking headquarters, the chairman actually is a friend of mine. Just having screaming matches with people on the campaign trail. Um, you know, Trump's team lawyers in New York screaming that they're going to load up a van and come to Pennsylvania and Lebanon County. And I'm like, dude, it's going to take you 2.5 hours to get here. It was a total shit show, and they were really pissed off because at that point they hadn't called Michigan, so we knew we won Pennsylvania, and we knew we had a 29,000 vote victory in Lebanon County alone that was going to push us way over the top. And that number came down only because of the outstanding votes that came out of the Southeast after things started to come in on absentees and stuff like that. So we
Mm-hmm.
knew we won Pennsylvania, and they just refused to report it. And my own former county commissioners refused to certify the vote because we had all kinds of machine troubles. They were double and triple checking, and I'm basically threatening their lives. I'm just like, I'm freaking, you're ruining things for me. It's like,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be like the big moment, and this is my backyard, so you are really causing me personal problem. So it strained some friendships, but I got to celebrate in Lebanon County,
Mm-hmm.
where it all started for me. So everything happens for a reason, I guess.
Yeah, well, it all turned out the way it was supposed to, I guess. At least in that scenario. And in this scenario, it seems like, too. It seems like we were supposed to sit here all night waiting for
This is
the reports.
like people. We have like 95 people watching us right now, and I think maybe 50 some are West Coast, so it's not a problem for them.
Right.
Uh, if you, I hope Keep America Great is trolling me. Thank the Amish for no recount. Do not get me started on the Amish freaking lie again. No, the Amish did not account for our victory in Pennsylvania. No, they did not come piling out to vote for Donald Trump. Jesus. People come up with the shit. It just drives me nuts. Well, that was like one of our biggest fake stories of the year. And it wasn't even us. It was a liberal who did it.
Yeah.
A liberal put out a Facebook post showing an Amish caravan going to a funeral or something, and said millions of Amish come out to put Trump over the finish line. Millions of there's
Millions.
there's like a million in the whole damn country, and they're all over the fucking map, And so we have maybe 50,000 in Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden, maybe 25 25,000 of them are eligible to vote, and of them 13% voted.
Right.
So tell me again how the Amish. If
So like
so,
so
if
like three
so,
3,000 voted or something.
yeah. So, and it's in my area of purview. So it's in Lancaster, which is right underneath and beside Lebanon. And I knew. I mean, it was no different than any other total we've ever had out of Lancaster. It was just pretty much where we needed to be. Same way we're McCain and Romney. There was no surge of Amish people. Um, in Michigan, there's even fewer. In Michigan, there's even fewer Amish people than there is Pennsylvania, Ohio, and I think Michigan's
I would
like the third
assume.
or fourth.
I thought they were all in Pennsylvania.
No, no, no. Ohio has, I think, as many as Pennsylvania does. And then there's, I think, another state, maybe Michigan's fourth. So maybe you were in that one precinct where Amish people are, but they don't believe in voting per se. They don't believe in it. They don't like it. Um, they just trust God's will be executed among the English.
Great.
They call us the English. They don't see us as equals. They don't see us as, doesn't matter what color your skin is. Um, if you're not Amish, they call you English, and they don't like you.
Great.
Yeah, Amish are. Once you deal with them long enough, you're not walking around looking for authentic Amish furniture or shit like that.
100% reporting.
There it is.
52-47.
Looks like
52.6, 47.4.
looks like it held up then.
Yeah, you called it. You said it couldn't
I'm back
change.
on track. I'm back on track now.
166. It was from the number you said earlier. You were said it at 166. You said there wasn't much left, and it went up to 173. So it went up what 8,000 votes. Those were the outstanding. 143 out of 143 precincts
Fine. I
reporting.
mean, it's just like they dump it all. I mean, that by far is the most aggravating return I've ever watched.
Well,
I'm
it's a good
sorry
thing you
everybody
didn't
had to
watch it.
witness this. This is painful. This is like this was closer to an impacted bowel than an election. Um, yeah, that's 6
Yeah.
points. You know what I mean? That's they might chirp a little bit, but they're not gonna do the circuit. You know, they're not gonna send out surrogates tomorrow bragging
Mm-hmm.
about how close this race was.
So
I mean, I
so they'll
remember.
say, you know, the Republicans pulled out a
Yeah,
win.
pulled it out, eked it out, eked it out. That's what they'll say.
Uh, but they're not gonna they're gonna gloat or they're not gonna gloat.
No,
I
I
mean,
don't see it. If forced, if already scheduled for an appearance to
mm-hmm.
discuss it, and they can't back out, which will probably happen in certain cases, then they'll have talking point no matter what network it'll
Yeah,
be very
the
very
talking
similar.
point they'll be like, it's obvious that this means that the Democratic blue wave is gonna happen. That'll be like the talking point, the
Yeah,
Democratic talking point.
when you consider that this district was previously represented by a fairly popular guy up until the fact that he was offering a whole lot of money to impregnate women the old-fashioned way in his office.
Oh God.
When you consider the misgivings that the senior population in Sun City might have about that type of person, I think you'll take a successor winning your seat by 6 percentage points. I think that'll be something that you'll walk away happy with. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Trent Franks is breathing a sigh of relief and perhaps soliciting a prostitute as we speak. I don't know. Um, but Debbie Lesko is going to Washington, and she will run again in the very late primary again in August, I believe,
Mm.
and then run immediately for a full year term in
She has to
November.
go through another primary.
Yeah, we call it the gauntlet. When you get elected at the wrong time, you have to pretty much go through 3 elections in a very
Mm.
short period of time. Um, so it's a fine day for me, only because I guess 6 points is the margin of victory. Other than that, there's really not a lot for me to kick around on this one or
Yeah,
chew on.
it's
I think she's
kind
in.
of.
She's in as long as she wants to be. We move on to the next race. Uh,
Yeah.
that's it. You
Well
know.
done. I would just like to say, well done, Arizona. I mean, it was expected. It happened. It's a good thing that it wasn't some sort of a crazy abnormal thing that happened tonight. It maybe I'm good luck. Maybe I should do all the election the election nights with you
Yeah,
instead of
because
Glenn.
yeah, Glenn and I we're 0 for 2 together in the last couple. So I mean, you don't, dude. My God, yes, I agree with you. Keep America great again. I agree with you. Google Amish Pack. Amish Pack is a thing. It really is. It is a very small thing. Might even be smaller than the pack that I am running. Um, if you really want to find out the truth about Amish election voting, uh, please Google Amish uh, election, whatever you want, Trump
Yeah.
Amish election, whatever. You will find out the true results, and you'll
If
find
you
out that this was a fake news story that was put out around the country.
if you
So,
really want to know, watch that movie about the bowling with Woody Harrelson.
oh God, what is that? Kingpin.
Kingpin, yeah.
Kingpin was an
And Bill Murray.
unbelievable movie. Unbelievable movie. So yeah, the Amish are just not our friends in politics. They don't like us. They don't like us. And if they had to vote, if you forced them to vote, they would vote Republican, yes. And in Pennsylvania, 13% of them vote over the last 3 presidential elections, 13%. So
Mm,
maybe it's more in Michigan. I doubt it. Indiana was another state that I forgot. Indiana might be more than Michigan as far as Amish population. But in
mm,
Pennsylvania, I think you would get no more than 25,000 voting age Amish, and 13% of those voted. So
mm,
that's what I know. I do end up having to dispel that rumor a lot.
mm.
Don't say that fake news doesn't work, Obi. It freaking works. It gets in a bloodstream like you would not
I
believe.
never
It is
said it didn't work. I
microbite.
mean, just I don't have I don't have as much experience in real politics as you do, but just a little dabbling that I've done on Twitter, which basically is fake anyway. I understand that, but it's a I guess I can't even say that Twitter means anything because Twitter is just so ridiculous.
Self-contained reality, I think, is what it
Yeah,
is.
you get both extremes. You get the extreme left and the extreme right. Well, maybe not right, but I mean you get the extreme right, but you get the extremely motivated, and I think it's at least changed a little because of Trump being on Twitter. A whole lot of just normal normal Trumplican type people have gone on Twitter just for Trump.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and also a lot of us wouldn't even know each other. I mean, clearly we would never know each other
Oh,
without
certainly.
Twitter. Clearly, so yeah, the people not only are invested and excited to back Trump, they're meeting each other up at every Trump rally. As Trump starts to have more rallies, right? I mean,
Oh
more of
yeah,
us are going
it's
to
I
start
mean
seeing each
the
other.
one in Michigan and I mean I'm confident Trump's going to come out blazing and go on a rally spree this fall.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree with you. And those who have not made an event that all of us go to are going to come together over Trump at these events, and they're going to have an event maybe the night of or after or before some of these Trump events, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. And those are the people that are like willing to go travel to see this man. They're going to travel to get the congressmen and senators elected to help this guy. They're going to be
Hmm.
the ones that actually do the work. So there are a lot of energetic people that you're going to meet and you're going to like, and they're going to be friends probably for a very long time.
Hmm.
Then the other side, just like life, the other side, these people are going to meet you and others, and you're going to find out that they're batshit crazy, that they're just nutty freaking people. And that happens. Of course it happens. It's the internet. All right. It's just like,
Yeah,
that's a fact of life. They're going
yeah,
to come
yeah,
out
yeah.
and,
People that are passionate are
mhm.
either like really good or really crazy. It seems
Yeah,
like.
we've met our share of like good crazy and bad crazy. I mean, the people that are just like way too much of their time to try to like, just mess with you. Um, and you've never really done anything to them. It's just that their feelings are hurt in some way. There's a strange component of that. I mean,
Yeah.
enthusiasm gets you 150 miles away to an event. Psychosis gets you 150 miles away and back and angry that you went and met somebody that didn't spend enough time with you or whatever. I mean, there's shitloads of problems with this. It's not a perfect system. Every time you or I or Glenn or Brian Haseen or anybody else opens up to somebody in a personal way, we are putting ourselves somewhat at risk for some weird behavior. Even most of it, 90% of it's all over the internet. So that doesn't really harm us in any way.
Right.
It's the 10% that you actually get to meet at some point on the road or out there, and they just are nuts. And we all know who they are now. They've identified themselves. That's the scary part of what we do. I mean, we still count on people not being crazy. And
It's kind of the social contract that if you've made it this far in life,
Yeah.
like I don't know, past 20. Yeah, hopefully you're not like crazy or or you're not like a I mean, hopefully you haven't gone so far crazy as you're like a Jeffrey Dahmer or something. Like I don't even know.
Yeah, fortunately, we haven't run into anybody that crazy yet.
Yeah, not that
But
crazy.
yeah, and Maddie's saying you got to weed out the bad. I think that's the same issue that you always have in politics. Like I can't remember, like going back to one of my first races, I think we always had the overzealous, really energetic campaign volunteer, and then when you win, they don't get the job they wanted, or they don't get the recognition that they want, and they just become the person who tries to run somebody against you every time you run your candidate again. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The
Uh,
the same energy that makes people want to help you is the
uh-uh.
same energy that makes them want to
Yeah,
hurt you when things don't turn out their way.
it's like
So
it's the true believer.
yeah,
If you've ever read that book,
yeah,
the Eric
totally.
Hoffer
Yeah,
book.
yep, yep. That's exactly what it is, because they buy into it 100%
Uh-huh.
in one way. They're going to buy into it 100% in the other way. I mean, that's just who they are as people. You know, that's what's going to happen. And if you politically get into bed with anybody like that, good luck. If you more than politically get into bed with somebody like that, you deserve everything that's going to happen to you. That's all I can say. Is that I've seen in my days watching candidates make bad decisions with campaign volunteers and things like that, and it's just bad, bad, bad. Recognize certain personalities, try to harness their energies in a positive way, and in the end, I can guarantee if you have 10 campaign volunteers that helped you become a state rep, state senator, congressman, or whatever, you have 10 volunteers, I guarantee you two out of them, 2 out of 10 will end up hating you, because they will be the ones that didn't get what they wanted out of the whole deal. So
Right.
you got to know the human mind. The human mind is rarely ever fixated on the altruistic.
Mhm.
There's always, even if they're not aware of it, there's a need, there's a want, there's an end game to their behavior, which makes them somewhat predictable to you. And if you're going to use them like a dog on a Iditarod sled race, know that when that race is over, if they're not happy, they're going to bite your ass.
Right.
That's a lesson we all need to keep in the back of our mind.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
that was a interesting analogy, and I do believe very. I would say that is a great place to end the night. Honestly.
That's what Glenn says when he wants to shut me up.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Because
it's fine.
I only
I
have to get
could.
up at 9 o'clock tomorrow. You probably have to get up at like 7. So
Yeah,
yeah,
7. Yeah. Luckily, the job site I'm working at is pretty close, so
good.
7. I can wake up at 7. No big deal.
Well, I want to thank you for letting me not have to Periscope that on my own. I wouldn't have done it because that was just brutal. That was bad. Very slow. The most what do you call it? It was the most. Well, let's just say it lacked a climax. All right, I'll leave it at that. I
Yeah,
don't want.
and hey, uh, I don't think anyone was bored or I mean, I think it was fine. It was just the numbers that were bad.
Yeah,
Their presentation of the numbers was pathetic.
it was pretty bad on all sites, universally.
Their timely presentation of the numbers was lacking.
My favorite part of the night was Decision Desk HQ called it at 12:30 Eastern Time,
Hmm.
which was what an hour and a half after everybody else called it. So that was my favorite part of the night. It was kind of funny. So,
Yeah. I mean, with 0% reporting, the New York Times called it
yeah,
within like a second of the numbers going up. They're like, "Oh, we called it," and they were actually within like a half a percentage point of getting it right, getting the final numbers right too,
well, you
with
know what they
zero
say.
percent in.
It might have been painful and boring, but if I have to go to the dentist, I'd rather go to the dentist with 95 of my friends all in the same room. Um, so that's kind of what it was like tonight.
That's right. That's right. And we
All
got
right.
we got some good updates on random stuff. And I appreciate you keeping us all company.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime and keep Glenn fresh, as they say, for his nightly M and
That's right.
M's. Right.
That's right. And I did miss most of it because I was helping Debbie with her OBS Periscope
Mm.
thing. She was like lost in the woods.
But
She
she's been doing well for a while with
No,
that.
no,
So
she's been
so
doing good, but
yeah.
there was just a few things that she didn't understand that
Yeah.
I helped her out with. I think she'll get her OBS skills down better. So
Good.
hopefully, anyway.
Good.
Anyway, that was that. Um, that being said,
Yep.
I'm gonna pull the plug on this thing. Adam, have a good night.
Well, let me just say this: keep your stick on the ice and your piss in the toilet.
Okay, fair enough. I'm glad you said it for me.
Yeah.
Okay. We're if I can figure out how to end it, I'm gonna end it. Oh, it's crazy. I have to like do. Okay, first of all, I'll stop it here.